Weirding Way Media.
Right, Mr. Walters?
You see that guy over there? Now, he's an actor. The guy on the phone, he's a prize fighter. Me, I'm a cab driver. I'm the only cab driver in this place.
Good evening and welcome to Night Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast. I'm HP, your co-host. And with me, as always, is Father Malone. Father Malone, how are you this evening?
I represent the National Organization of Women, and I'm shutting this episode down.
Someone's got to shut it down. We're talking Taxi Season 4, Episode 10, Louie Goes Too Far.
Which, by the way, is a terrible title. It should be like, Louie is a total creepazoid and is lucky he's not in jail. Like, the Louie Goes Too Far makes it sound like, oh, he's been a bad boy. This is not that.
Like you're wagging your finger at him. Oh, Louie. This is much more egregious than you would get from that title, I think. You're right.
Yeah, this isn't some lascivious thing he said to a woman he never should have said it or something like that. This is beyond the pale. This is assault.
If ever there was an understatement, Louie Goes Too Far is that understatement. So we're going to get into it. This is written by Danny Callis and directed by Michael Lesak.
What is happening here?
I believe we've come across Michael Lesak in the past. I'm not really sure about Danny Callis. Danny Callis sounds like a fake name to me, like a SAG thing.
Yeah, as does the other one, too. It sounds like James Burrows couldn't, there was some loophole where he couldn't direct every episode or something, so he threw that name up. Because I could swear I heard him honking off stage.
It could be. He may have been there in a kind of an associate producer capacity, but that does explain a lot that the man isn't directing it. But nevertheless, I'm going to remind you, we're doing these shows in broadcast order and not in order of filming. We start here, as we often start, Father Malone, in the garage as Elaine hustles in. She announces to no one in particular that she has no time to talk. She's got to change for a big opening at the art gallery tonight. She goes up the stairs to her locker and she grabs a glittery sequined dress and brings it downstairs. A side note, Father Malone, are sequin dresses still a thing?
Yes, I see them often.
Well, being in Las Vegas, I would assume there's a glitz and a... if you're going to see it anywhere, I would assume you'd see it in Vegas.
Yeah, but I'm not talking just like showgirls on stage. I'm just people out in nightclubs and stuff. The sequins are still a huge thing. Trust me.
Well, it's kind of an easy shortcut to glitzy, glamorous, and I'm putting air quotes around glamorous sort of clothing because it's ultimately just a blouse or a dress with a bunch of little sequins sewn into it.
You say it like it's not magic.
Well, I always felt like it was a big 80s kind of style choice. I guess that's true still.
I don't think sequins have a decade. I think they're perennial.
I guess so, but would you say they debuted in the 70s? Is that where they became popular?
Sequins? No, I would say in the 50s, if anything.
In the 50s?
50s, yeah, I would say the 50s, right?
Huh.
That's when you started getting sequins.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe it was the 20s or the 1890s. Who knows?
Maybe some flappers. Maybe it was a thing,
I don't know if it was flappers, though. Come on, let's not go crazy here, HB.
I don't know. Anyway, we've spent too long on sequins.
I say we didn't spend enough time on sequins.
Well, we could make this could be, Mr. Walters, a sequin podcast. We could just change it. Format shock. Why not? So with a flirty head turn, Elaine goes to the downstairs bathroom to, quote, make herself exquisite. Now, in my book, she doesn't have to she already is exquisite, let's be honest. No, not here.
Because they put her in a fucking red sweater. It's gross. Stop putting redheads in red things. It doesn't go.
Who's the guy who was on with that reality show, the one about the designers? Was it Tim Gunn?
Tim Gunn, yeah.
Tim Gunn. You're like the Tim Gunn of Elaine fashion choices.
Oh my God. Elaine in a red sweater. No. Make it work.
Police. She cannot make that work. So anyhow, inexplicably, and to a roar of applause, Father Malone, this was a real head scratcher. Vic Ferrari walks in. There's no context, I guess.
Yeah, they're applauding because the Fonzie character walked on.
It's the Fonz. That's exactly it. He's become a Fonz. And that can't have been a happy development for Andy Kaufman, knowing what we believe we know about him. I don't think he was after the cheap laughs.
No, and I'm sure by by now he's really sick of this television series. After how many years?
I mean, this is 4 years. It's probably 4 years more than he thought he would get out of it. He probably didn't think it was going to be a big success. The thing about it is, I think you're going to see him playing Vic. He's so over the top here. There's no, not that Vic is a subtle character, but any sort of pretense towards being clever or being kind of subversive in his portrayal is out the window. He's in full project to the back of the theater mode, and I really found that grating in this episode.
Yeah, because I've been a big fan of Vic Ferrari. I thought he was really funny in a smarmy, smug kind of way, but he's really a cartoon character here. He like never stops rumba-ing or something or jazzercising the entire time. Like, all right, buddy. Like his arms are constantly like, I'm in a dance. I'm in a quiet little dance on my own.
You could have taken Vic out of the episode entirely, and it would not have made a single lick of difference. I have a feeling that because of the nature of the A plot, maybe they felt like they had to do something to lighten the episode a little bit, because it's really, we're going to see it's some very dark stuff and stuff that maybe isn't tailor-made for comedy.
Well, I will say we get to see Reverend Jim in another outfit, so maybe the subplot is completely worth it.
It's true. It was rather jarring, as we'll see. We're going to get to that in a moment. So Vic comes in. He banters with Reverend Jim a little bit, during which he extols the virtue of jazzercise, as you just said. Now, if there ever was a word that screamed 80s, it's jazzercise.
Yeah, I'm shocked at how frequently they are pointing out contemporary things on this show, and this one's a perfect example because obviously the show came out in 82 or whatever the fuck it was, because that's when jazzercise was in the lingo that could be a joke on television.
Yeah, we've seen them do that with the Rubik's Cube. That became like a focus in the Vienna Waits episode with Alex. At a certain point in a future episode, it kind of revolves a little bit around the movie E.T., which, as we all remember, was a sensation in the 80s.
I think there's a Pac-Man episode too, isn't there? With Jim addicted to video games. So yeah, au courant here on Taxi.
That's a perfect example right there. So yeah, I don't think, as much as we like to kind of class up the idea of this show, they're not immune to these sorts of like pandering to the current times. Unfortunately, that's the case here. Jim is intrigued by the notion of improving himself through jazzercise, and Vic agrees to take him to a class with him tomorrow at 8. Okay. Now we get into this. A shaken and confused Elaine kind of stumbles out of the bathroom. Rieger notices that she's upset by something, and he asks, "What's up?" She says there's a small hole in the bathroom, and she could swear that she noticed an eye staring at her. This is like Porky's stuff we're dealing with here.
If Blade Runner's Rick Deckard had been there, this would not have happened. Little holes, they they like to drill so they can. You'd be so surprised at what a man will do to get a glimpse of a beautiful body.
By the way, that happens to be one of my favorite moments. It's so inexplicable, like how Deckard is just able to like put on that goofy persona just at a moment's notice. It's great. It's underrated, that moment, I think.
Well,
Blade
anytime
Runner.
Harrison Ford does like a voice or like some weirdo character, it's like, what is happening all of a sudden?
Where did this come from? Elaine jumps at this conclusion that it must be Louie, and Tony actually. Maybe it's because he's a paisano of Louis. He says he defends Louis initially. Says even Louis would not sink that low. And on cue, absolutely on cue, Louis walks out of the adjoining room. Doing the squiggy. He comes out of the adjoining room. He's singing "A Pretty Girl" is like a melody.
He should have walked out and said, "Nado, you're looking good."
That would have,
6 to 1, half dozen to another, man. That's what's happening on screen.
Elaine wants to kill him immediately, but Rieger insists that without proof, it's just her word against his. I guess it's Rieger being pragmatic, but I'm a little surprised that he's not leaping to her defense in the face of such an obvious situation.
I'm a little surprised they don't let Tony just go back there.
Would you just pull Louis out and beat him up,
Just
you
go
mean?
beat the shit out of him. Yeah, like what's up here? Like maybe not so much this time, the initial thing, but when she goes back to trap him, who would have been able to stop Tony from going back there to kick the shit out of Louis?
He would have scared the shit out of Louis. Because we all know that there's the savagery just under the surface of Tony. He's barely civilized. And I'm
He's
sure
still got
Louis
all those
knows.
trophies from Vietnam. Let's not forget those.
There's some darkness lurking in Tony that I know Louis's aware of.
He keeps a shriveled ear in the pocket of his Yankees jacket.
To trap Louis, as you said, Elaine loudly declares that she's going to go change back into her earlier outfit. And then when she does this, Louis casually walks back into the adjoining room. I don't know if it's meant to be the tool room that we've seen on occasion. I don't know what room that is. Maybe another bathroom.
I don't know
Perhaps
what
it's a
that room
men's
is
room.
supposed to be.
I don't know because you don't
I
ever
don't remember
see
there
it.
ever being a second door there, honestly.
It's there. There's a lot of secrets in the garage. We've talked about this, and Louis knows them all. So I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe it's maybe we assume it's another men's room because why else would Louis be like in there, kind of doing his business? I don't know. It seems a little suspect.
The whole thing is suspect. It's just ridiculous. I mean, he walks out after she comes out, and then he walks back in after she goes back in. Come on.
Yeah, this show really gives new meaning to the phrase suspension of disbelief because things would play out much differently, nowadays. Louis goes back into that other room and then seeing this sends like I said, the always hair triggered Tony into a bloodlust and he declares he's going to break Louis's jaw, just like you said. He's the one who's going to get it done. But Rieger stops him, apparently having faith in Elaine's plan. And then with a loud shriek from Louis, both Elaine and Louis emerge from their respective rooms. Louis is notably clutching his eye, and Elaine chases him around, accusing Louis of peeping. But Louis, of course, insists that he didn't do it. All the while, Louis is scrambling around the garage, but his every exit is blocked by either Rieger or Tony. And finally, Louis barricades himself in a taxi as Elaine runs out, declaring that she hates Louis more now than she ever has before.
You know, at least the kids in Porky's were in high school and didn't really fucking know any better. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I'm not letting them off the hook either that I don't believe in boys will be boys bullshit. But, like, that was a period piece set in the early 60s about high school kids who are horny and crazy. This is Louis De Palma, and as reprehensible as he's been so far, this is just wrong. From beginning to end, there's nothing cute about this. There's nothing sort of scampish in his behavior here. He deserves to go to jail, never mind being fired.
Yeah, there's no whimsy.
And they play it like it is. That's the problem. They keep like making him like, "Oh, he's trying to wriggle out of it." Ha ha. Like, no, man. Like everyone knows he just did this. Why is there any confusion?
They should be renaming the garage to the Elaine Nardo Taxi Company. She should own that fucking garage because this leaves them open to insane litigation. I mean, they have witnesses. They've got him dead to rights. There's no her word against his at this point. It has happened. There are witnesses. This is the deal. I was sort of like, I mean, I guess this isn't one of the ones, spoiler alert, that I watch that often because I don't find it it's not a fun episode to watch. It's pretty awful what Louis does, and I don't enjoy.
I'd rather watch Angela again.
Oh, that is wow. That is pretty definitive right there, Father Malone.
At least you get that groovy song by Bob James.
Now, would you rather watch the first one or the one where she comes back and then they have to find her because she's eaten again?
Oh, good question. I think I'd probably have to go with the second one because it's like a scavenger hunt in it. Like they have more cabbies involved.
Alex is offended at the gall of Louis. As I said, they all saw him go in knowing that there's a peephole there, and his eye is tearing because Elaine poked it. Alex is so angry, Father Malone, he literally sputters. It's one of these things where he's like, you don't, I don't, and finally he just storms out saying, forget it. I think he even does the thing with his hands like, forget it. And then Tony follows him out. Even Vic, who is obviously cut from a very different cloth, voices his disapproval at Louis. But
Yeah,
that's not cool,
Vic
man.
is a jerk, but he's not a creep.
He's not a creep, and he's not going to cross that line. So, and then Jim tells Louis that he's Louis is one of four heroes in his life. There's St. Thomas Aquinas, there's Mahatma Gandhi, there's Alan Alda, and Louis. And even after Louis admits that his eye is hurt because Elaine poked it, Jim says, "Well, that's good enough for me." So Jim, being Jim, just he doesn't know what's going on.
That's Jim's representation of his entire generation. They don't see it when it's happening.
That's right. So we fade back into the garage. It's sometime after this incident. Vic again comes bopping into the garage. He's wearing his banana yellow tracksuit. And again, Father Malone, I mentioned this earlier. Kaufman is hamming it up in a way that he rarely ever did on Taxi. He's got a wide smile. He's cheerfully going through. He's pantomiming these ridiculous jazzercise exercises.
Do you think this is the lack of influence of James Burrows?
I think it might be. I think
that
there's
this
a case
new
to be
director
made.
was probably intimidated by Andy Kaufman and went, just whatever you want to do, man. We're happy to have you.
I think probably they kind of maybe gave him a little too much. They gave him the proverbial inch and he took a mile. Maybe he wanted to push it as far as he could take it, Kaufman. But it's just, again, it's sort of disheartening that usually he's so reliably, punchy in his targeted bits on other shows. So then, as you alluded to earlier, a sweaty gray sweats clad Jim comes in and he's grousing about how awful the jazzercise was. But
I never want to hear that word again. You can get angry, Jim, here. Jim gets violent.
he does. It's it's so weird to see him in the sweats. And for some reason, the sweats are very form fitting to him. So it's not like these baggy sweats that you'd see. He almost looks like Rocky Balboa climbing the steps of the art museum. That's the look he has: gray sweats, top to bottom.
Well,
And I think
they just traded out his one uniform for another.
for another.
You remember when gray sweats were all that there was? It was just like gray top, gray bottom.
Oh yeah, every time on in a TV show, like if it was Laverne and Shirley, I remember once they went to like a fat farm, or so-called fat farm, and what was their dress of choice? Gray sweats, top to
Gray
bottom,
sweats,
tube socks. Yeah, that was it. You didn't if you were wearing dark sweats, let's say black sweats, you were probably engaged in some sort of cat burglar type situation. That's the only reason you'd wear any sweats that weren't gray, like dark. You know what I mean? Maybe a watch cap too.
I don't particularly favor the 80s as a decade, but there were some benefits to it. Like, we can add color to our wardrobes.
It's just weird to see Jim in an outfit that isn't his customary Canadian tuxedo, of course. And like you said, Jim is so upset with Vic and the whole thing that they almost come to blows about the jazzercise. I think Jim actually leaps physically at Vic to try and, like, I don't know, get his point across.
Did you read the subtitles? Because he was like, I'm usually not a violent person, but I will engage in fisticuffs with you. I was like, what the fuck is happening, Jim?
It's up is down, left is right. This is a very weird episode. This is another reason for that. So again, their subplot that's pretty much it. They walk off as Elaine walks into the garage. She's escorting another woman who we'll find out is named Andrea Stewart. Elaine introduces her as she's from the National Organization for Women. Does she say what she is? Like, is she a litigator or something?
No, she's like the New York representative or something. Like,
yeah,
whatever the highest tier of the local chapter is.
Yeah, I got to hand it to Elaine. She really snapped into action quick, because we're led to believe this is probably the next day. So she got on the horn with the organization for women and got this Andrea Scott to come down and, like, help her address the issue with Ratledge, the owner. Elaine tells everybody that Andrea is going to settle the score with Louie, but Andrea cautions her, like, hey, I'm going to be fair about this, Elaine. Don't oversell this. And of course, at that point, Louie comes in.
Who's the toots?
Yeah, who's the toots? Which, I mean, toots, even then, was such an antiquated turn of a phrase.
Yeah, it'd be like getting called a honky now.
So after his faux pas, Andrea kind of exchanges a look with with Elaine. Like, yeah, okay, I see what we're talking about now. Elaine introduces Andrea to Louis, who doesn't care at all. He's not fazed in the least about anything that's happening. And Alex tells Louis that they're here to take action for what Louis did to Elaine. And Louis's response is he just makes light of the threat as the two women go up to talk to Ratledge. What's curious about this is that Alex almost seems to be cautioning Louis about the situation. Like, why is he beholden to Louis to kind of like be his consigliere in this situation? I don't get it.
Well, I mean, Louis doesn't in any way understand the gravity of that situation. And I guess even as a friend, you might go, hey, you better start fucking saying you're sorry here, man, because this is bad, bad news.
I guess, but Louis isn't and has never really been his friend. They've had some tender moments, but every episode's a new reason to hate Louis, seemingly. So it's just weird that this is kind of the logical endpoint of Louis's bad behavior. Why Rieger wouldn't go, finally, he's gone too far and now he's going to be dealt with. But
Yeah, maybe he should have been telling him in a gleeful way. You know what's going to happen here, Louis? They're going to go up there. They're going to talk to Rutledge. You're going to lose your job if you're lucky. If you're lucky. And then they might sue you personally.
Louis is confident that his 15 years of service to the company will be taken into account. 15 years? Didn't he work for the company like right out of high school?
No, he went into the army right out of high school.
Okay, he went in. Okay, so does 15? So that would have been, let's say, 1967. Let's call it.
Yeah,
Would 82 minus 15, 67? Is that?
that makes sense actually.
Well, let me ask this: do we know when? Was it Douglas Fairbanks? Was he the one that he rolled for the money and the wine in a previous episode? Remember the story that
Are you
Louis
talking
told?
to me?
I am. Remember the story Louis told to Rieger?
Oh right,
about,
yes.
Was it
two
Douglas
hookers
Fairbanks?
rolled him, right?
Was it Douglas Fairbanks or somebody else?
I think it was Doug Fairbanks. Yeah,
Well, then when did he die pre-67? I guess that's the crucial thing.
I have no idea.
It would be interesting. I don't care enough to look it up,
Nor
but
do I.
that would definitively tell us if the dates line
Well,
up.
the first season took place in what year? 78?
79, I thought.
79, and that was Louis' 10th, or was it his 15th?
I thought it was his 10th anniversary.
High school
his
anniversary.
reunion, his high school reunion, 10th. So that would have been 68. Something is fishy here, but I'm just going to leave it at that. We'll just file this under puzzling. Louis also tries bribing Tony with the promise of a brand new cab to bring him over to his side in case there's like any, he has to testify, but to no avail because Tony says, look, even if you give me this cab, I'm still going to have to testify against you. So he gives Tony like the Widowmaker. I think he calls it the Widowmaker instead of this brand new cab. So Jim stumbles down the stairs. He's been up there and he's wondering aloud why they're saying such things, meaning Ratledge. And Louis pumps Jim for info, which he relates in bits and pieces that indicate the case could go either way. They're referencing his time, his service to the company, the seriousness of the allegations, what have you. Finally, Elaine and Andrea come downstairs. Elaine says she's decided to take their out-of-court settlement rather than sue, which I guess we're led to believe must include some sort of monetary recompense, I would think.
Oh, yeah. Clearly she was going to get some money out of that.
She should. She
Oh,
deserves
no. I don't think she is. I think the settlement is he gets fired.
He gets fired, yeah. So that's when she says that she's taking the settlement, Louis is crowing about it, and Elaine replies, well, guess what, Louis? You just lost your job. And that it's like the record scratch moment with Louis. He completely freezes up as we fade to commercial. We fade back in as Louis is saying his goodbyes to Jeff and his cage while toting the customary cardboard box with all of his stuff packed into it. We've seen this. Anytime someone gets fired, they have that cardboard box, right?
That banker's box.
Right, with a plant kind of sticking up out of the top and
Absolutely.
a few picture frames. That's just the
If you're being thrown out of an office, your plant and your picture frame will be sticking out. Just as if you've gone to the market, you will have a loaf of French bread.
I will say I I've worked in a lot of offices in my life, Father Malone. I've never I've never had a plant. I don't know. Maybe that's an 80s thing too. Maybe that's just I don't know. Never had a plant.
Everyone was crazy for ferns back then.
Guess everyone wanted to have a green thumb. Tony insists to Alex as they're watching this play out that they got to say something to Louis for goodbye. But Alex is still so disgusted by what Louis did, although he does admit to feeling sorry for Louis despite that. Alex ultimately says a quick goodbye to Louis, who is resolute. He's defiant. He insists that they could have stuck up for him, but they didn't. And now Louis is going to get back on top of the dung heap someday, no matter what. And he huffs out of the garage. He's apparently for good. He's leaving.
Good. I mean, honestly, like putting aside our history with the show, fuck off already, Louis De Palma.
This should have been him actually getting fired permanently. Like no ifs, ands, or buts. As you said, he would be fortunate that's all that happened to him, because he could have criminal charges pressed against him at this point. It could have been a lot worse for Louis. So we cut to Elaine's apartment. She's getting ready for a date. Elaine answers a knock at the door, and of course, she thinks it's Robert, whoever her date is going to be. And it's Louis. He's begging for forgiveness. He's literally groveling at her feet, and he's warning Elaine that he might kill himself. And while he's begging for his old job back, Elaine's date comes to the door, and Louis slams the door in his face, ruining the flowers that the guy brought.
That's where I heard Burroughs honking off
when
camera.
when the flowers got
got severed. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I'm starting to think that Elaine has a thing for like nerdy white guys, because
Yeah, she has a thing for, let's face it, wealthy white guys.
right. I think that's because they all have very nice 3-piece suits.
Like, none of them are attractive. None of them have any interest or personality. It's just that they're well-to-do, and that makes me not like Elaine all that much.
Yeah. The only one that she had that had a bit of flair maybe was
Tom
the one
Selleck.
where Tom Selleck, of course. Yeah, that was an
man.
unrequited thing.
And he was a good-looking guy, too, on top of it. Like, they gave him charm, and he had those looks. That one made sense. This guy? This guy
just seems like harumphy and someone who is better suited as a maitre d' at some snooty restaurant. Elaine, like you could do so much better than these clowns that you're dating. I don't get it.
He's not even interesting enough to be at a French snooty restaurant. This guy is managing a fucking TGI Fridays, man. No offense to the managers of TGI Fridays nationwide. We appreciate your service.
So now they're it's like the armed forces. We thank you for your service.
You know what? Honestly, I would just as quickly thank wait staff across the United States as I would any soldier or fireman, or like they do it's like they say to Reservoir Dogs, this is a hard job.
Sure. I mean, I would never make the comparison necessarily, but I will agree with you that working both in the hospitality field in restaurants and working in retail, it fucking sucks, man. You see the worst of what humanity has to offer typically,
Yeah, people go there just to fucking take their shit out on these people. It's gross.
It's terrible. I sort of feel like every kid should have to work like a retail or restaurant gig at least once in their life.
I agree. You should, for like 6 months too.
Yeah.
So you get the real feel for it.
You just can't appreciate or even appreciate a good customer, like that breath of fresh air, somebody who actually appreciates you and takes care of you accordingly as a server.
Yeah. Lest we forget, you can learn a lesson from a good person as well.
Absolutely. Snooty Robert here, he's getting to be more and more concerned for Louis, which is also a little confusing because all Elaine has to say is, look, this creep peeped me while I was changing defenseless in a bathroom. You're going to take his side of this? Get the fuck out of here.
That is the end. It's like, okay, you can both leave. Fuck you both.
It's ridiculous. And Louis is like, he's huffing and it looks like he's having a heart attack or something. And Elaine tries to explain why she's so blasé about what's happening, because she keeps saying, oh, he's just making it up. He's just hamming it up because he's upset about this and that.
I've been in this situation where I seem like the bad guy because I finally had enough with somebody and they seem like they're perfectly fine all the time, but really they're a grinding fucking nightmare, and then you're the dick. So I can get that aspect of it, but not if your date, your prospective
Yeah.
date, says this guy peeped on me while I was naked. Then the conversation's over. It's like, okay, then he needs to go and don't forgive him. You're right. Like, fuck that guy.
That should have been the end of it. Like, okay, you know what, pal, I'm sorry that you're so worked up, but you gotta deal with the consequences of your actions. Now go home, sleep on it. Maybe things won't be that bad in the morning. Just get the fuck out of here. But the guy doesn't do that. Robert, this date, doesn't do that. He's basically doting on Louis to try to get him to calm down. And he even asks Elaine, what's the worst thing that would happen if she gave him his job back? Now, putting aside the idea that it's not up to Elaine to give him his job back. It's not her. She doesn't own the company.
No, but she could just rescind the potential lawsuit. So that makes sense. However, why is he even asking the question? I mean, I would say it could get worse. What are you talking about? He could be retaliatory now. Like, don't
Yeah.
be a fucking dummy. Also, what did I see in you? Get out of my fucking apartment.
You're taking his side of it. Why am I even going out on a date with you in the first place? Get the hell out of here. I'll
Do you
just,
think I want to
know.
have sex with you now, sir? Please.
So, Robert eventually decides to leave and he runs out of the apartment, which makes Elaine even more furious at Louis for shooing away her date. And she yells at him to get out as she retreats to another room. But Louis is so pathetic, he can't even bring himself to leave without getting his job back. And he basically faints as we fade back into the apartment later on. Now, he's at this point, he's resting on the couch as the two of them continue this sort of mini play about the situation. It's just the rest of the episode is just them. Elaine insists that Louis, he has no idea why it was so wrong what he did. And Louis kind of has this light bulb moment and says, well, no, if he can understand, will that motivate you to get me my job back? It's like this lifeline that she's just thrown to him inexplicably. Like,
Yeah, I would say no, absolutely not. But I think you ought to know why this happened.
yeah, I think for your own betterment, I understand why this happened, but it's not going to change a thing. Like you can't go back in time and erase how violated I feel. You can't do that.
Actually, like maybe she could have forgiven him, and maybe he could have gotten his job back. But the fact that she has to fucking lead him by the hand to why he did why what he did was wrong is like the fucking cherry on this ridiculous sundae.
For a moment, put yourself in this position. I've never been in this position, thankfully, but let's say someone did peep on you at work or something, something skeevy, right?
Yeah.
And they are summarily dismissed, but there's the opportunity that maybe you can forgive them and have them come back and work. Would you ever take that option? Would you allow someone? How could you work? I guess my point is, how could you work with somebody who has violated you to that degree? How could you ever go back and to the way things were?
Well, look, things would never be the same. I could see entertaining the notion that if somebody were to come to me and they were genuinely penitent, that I could say, okay, but that can't ever happen again, or other sort of circumstances or strictures on their behavior from then on. But if they came to me like, it's because boys shouldn't peep on girls. And I go, no, that's not it at all. I go, okay, it's this other stupid thing superficially that I just thought of, and I'm not actually taking any of this seriously. I'd be like, fuck you. It's good you're fired. I don't want to see you again.
I just feel like that there's something, like you said, it will never be the same, and I would just have trouble looking someone in the eye after they've hurt me so deeply. In this case, I don't know how Elaine would come back from that, but maybe it's not. Maybe she's just a bigger person than me. I fail to see it.
I don't know, man. I can forgive somebody if they're genuinely sorry about something. The past is the past. It doesn't have to be prologue. In this case, this is egregious just because this
Yeah.
is a stupid sitcom and this plot shouldn't even be happening here. They shouldn't be having this discussion because the writers aren't taking it seriously.
And that's the thing. This is ultimately kind of a nothing episode that wants to say something, but really has nothing to say. I
Much
think
like
that's what we're
Angela.
gonna find. as you said, like she's trying to get Louis to see her side of things, but he can't. He's having trouble like coming up with the actual nitty gritty of why she's so upset. He comes up with all these empty platitudes of, like you said, well, I guess guys aren't supposed to peep on women when they don't know, right? It's so simplified and so on the face of it that it doesn't really register. So Elaine is not buying it. She'd like to forgive Louis, but she knows that he's just not getting it, and she even gives him a hint. Has there ever been a moment, Louis, where your most fundamental right, the right to privacy, has been violated? And Louis says, well, yes, finally, this kind of seems to get through to him, And he proceeds to go into this monologue. It's essentially a monologue. Louis did this too when he was talking about his high school reunion. When he talked about how he thought he was in with
all
the
the
cool,
bullshit he got put through.
yeah, the high chair
Poor
and all that
Louis.
kind of stuff. So he delivers another monologue, and he says, twice a year, Louis needs to buy himself new clothes, and the only way he can get anything to fit is if he goes to a men's store and goes right to the boys department in a husky size.
Husky.
He makes
This is the only thing I remembered from this episode for all these years is that he says the word husky. Like, ugh. Like, it's so painful to have to mention that I wear husky clothing.
husky becomes a dirty word when Louis is telling this story. And in fact, I will also say, Father Malone, that in the Lovey's book, the official Taxi fan guide, the Louis speech apparently came directly from Danny DeVito's experience, as you would expect, because this being probably the best part of the whole episode, low bar, but it is a good showcase for Danny DeVito. And he's quoted as saying in the book that speech came out of an improv that he did with Jim and Ed, James Burrows and Ed,
Dot Weinberger.
about how he always hated going with his mom to Robert Hall or Barney's or wherever, and that she would take him. And he says he hated it because he could just never go in there and get something off the rack. It was always horribly embarrassing for him. And that's what the speech came out of. And I thought that was actually kind of cool to note that, because it is the only sort of bright spot in this whole episode, and DeVito nails it. So he talks about having to go to the Husky section, and Louis always tries to go when there's no one there, but he says there's always kids there. And he doesn't even look at what he's buying. He just takes it and goes. He grabs it and goes. And one of the mothers once said to Louis, "You're lucky. At least you won't outgrow it in a couple of months," which is awful. And Elaine is watching this, and you can see that it's tearing her heart out having to hear this. And Louis says the worst moment is when he opens the doors and he walks out into that room, and he can see all the parents telling all the kids not to stare at him. And at this point, Elaine is almost in tears, and he says to her, this is kind of a weird echo. Remember the "Take Me to the Place You Cry" with Xena? This is almost like that, where Louis says to her, like, "Is this how I made you feel? Is this how violated you felt?" And Elaine says, "Yeah, that is basically how you made me feel." And Louis tearfully asks for forgiveness, and they hug. But of course, this being a stupid sitcom, Louis proceeds to grab her ass. And it's a little funny, a little jab at the end.
He hasn't changed at all, thank God.
That's the end of the episode. We don't have any callback to anything else. That's it. She apparently forgives Louis for his, you can't even call it an indiscretion, for his violation. Let's call it what it is. So that's the episode. Now, Father Malone, mercifully, we're going to talk about yellow lights.
What does a yellow light mean?
As a reminder, we score every episode on a scale from 1 to 5 yellow lights. 1 is the worst Taxi episode, and 5, hey, it's the best Taxi episode. As is our custom, Father Malone, we're going to kick it to you first. What do you give Louie Goes Too Far?
HP, do you like card games?
Love card games.
You know what my favorite is?
Pinochle.
Nope. Uno. Coincidentally, what I'm giving this episode.
Likewise, I give this one yellow light as well. Look, no one is looking for hard-hitting melodrama from Taxi, Father Malone. But I will say, if they are going to open the door to this type of story, they should have the courage of conviction to do right by it. They've
I
taken what
could
is
not agree more with you.
seriously, they've taken what should be a very consequential story,
And common story, a common story. It
all
should be
too
noted.
common, and they've made it so inconsequential that I can't give it any more than one. Sadly, I want to give it more because it's important, but boy, they bungle it. Not good.
Thumbs down.
Thumbs down from both of us, unfortunately. So that's going to do it for this episode of Night, Mr. Walters. Father Malone, where can folks find you when you're not clocked into the garage?
Well, you can find me twice a week at Midnight Viewing, the show I do, sometimes with HP, sometimes with Mike White, sometimes with Nuka Coda Quantum. Mondays, it is either, just cut it there. Just, that's enough.
For myself, you can find me also on the Midnight Viewing Galaxy.
Fests.
Father Malone and the Fests. Father Malone and I are currently covering Von Doom Fest, which is it's not just the Marvel movies. It is kind of what we cover other pieces of the Marvel universe, the comics and the TV shows and things. It's been great fun. We're just getting started, so please check that out. I also host the Noise Junkies music podcast, and I also have a Bandcamp site, hpmusicplace.bandcamp.com. So thanks again for listening, everybody. Please feel free to subscribe to the podcast, write a review, or rate us. We'd love to hear from you, of course. You can send us an email at hpmusicplace@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.